We start on Capitol Hill and new trouble for embattled Congressman George Santos. Santos says he won't seek re-election after the release of an ethics probe. It calls out his lies tied to his education, marriage, and finances. The explosive House report will now be sent to the Justice Department. Joining us now to talk more is Brandon Brice. Brice is a conservative columnist and host of The Brice is Right. So thanks for making us a part of your day, Brandon.
Thank you for having me.
I guess just overall, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Well, first of all, the guy's a politician. And so unfortunately, politicians are not known for being saints or telling the truth often. And so I think with this guy, listen, this is not somebody that I would have endorsed or supported. But the reality is, the beauty of Congress, and we need to understand that if the American people want you in, regardless of how crazy your candidacy may be, then you deserve to serve. Now, the reality is I think it's admirable that he's not deciding to run for or seek re-election. But the reality is, Congress is about who the people wants, not who Congress wants. And we need to be very clear of that.
I guess, does this mean, could we see any policy changes from this? Could representatives, their campaigns and their finances overall just kind of be watched and monitored a bit more?
Well, the problem is we already have laws on the books that deal with issues like this. When we talk about ethics, the question is, are we actually enforcing the laws that are already on the books? We don't need new policy. Just enforce the laws.
Overall, what should be the House's response to this report, or are you hearing anything about a response?
The guy said that he's not seeking re-election. Let him go. I mean, the reality is there are other politicians who probably shouldn't be serving, but the reality is they're there because the American people put them there. And so I think we've got to be very careful. If the guy's not seeking re-election, he's one less congressman that, in my opinion, really did not represent his district well in the first place.
As far as the incoming class of freshman congressmen, I guess, what does this say about the status of our congressional efforts right now?
There was a time, Terrell, where, to get elected, you had to check the box. You had to serve in the military. You had to, go to church. You had to have, a wife and, the dog and the picket fence. Those days are over. Politics today is about who's popular, who's got enough social media hits, who's attractive. And so I think it's a true telling of what society is today. What would I like to see? I would like to see politicians that actually read the laws that they pass. I would like to see, politicians that actually give back to the community. I would like to see politicians that when they make a promise to the American people, they keep the promise. Promises kept. Promises made, promises kept. And so, we're far from that, and hopefully we get back to that in the upcoming future.
Do you think the issues that are surrounding Santos right now, will this play a role in the upcoming Republican presidential debate? I think that's set for next month.
Absolutely not. I think this guy, first of all, most people don't even know where Santos lives. This is a guy who got lucky. He got elected. He did not serve his constituents well, in my opinion, and he's not running for re-election. It's a misnomer. I don't think this has anything to do with any of the candidates, the 8 now, that are running to become president of the United States. I think, the question that we need to talk about is when we talk about ethics, whether you are Donald Trump or whether you are Joe Biden, justice is blind for a reason. And the reality is what it seems is that we're picking and choosing who we want to, put the flashlight on and who we want to give the pass. That's what we need to focus on if we want to talk about making America better than it was yesterday.
Of course, this is just one ethical issue. Overall, would you say the 3 branches of government, would they all seemingly have issues of ethics?
Again, it's politics. And when you look at Washington, D.C., the reality is, politicians today, they should be ethical. They're supposed to be ethical. But we know, in order to get elected, you got to raise money. You got to shake hands. There's a saying, politics make strange bedfellows. They say that for a reason because people will do whatever it takes to get elected. And unfortunately, the Boy Scout support of, on my honor and doing your duty, that doesn't sell wolf tickets now, and that doesn't necessarily get you elected in 2024.
Now, overall, with this involving Santos, how do you think this will play a role in the upcoming election? And overall, the person who's going to fill that role, I guess, how could it have an effect on them as well?
You know, I wish I lived in that district because I would surely run for it because I mean the bar is so low.
Wow.
Where I mean, I mean anybody could win. Anybody with a brain could win that seat. I think right now, again, it goes back to the standard of where what it means to be. I mean, it's a privilege to be an elected official, and unfortunately, some people take advantage of that privilege. This gentleman did, and so I think we need to call wrong wrong, not wrong just when it's Republicans, but we need to hold all of our elected officials accountable.
Overall, I guess, how do we do that more so, would you say? An example?
Do your research. I'll give you a couple examples. Do your research when you're considering voting. Get a chance to meet the congressman. Listen, I've always said a person's best performance is their last performance. If they didn't do it then, they won't do it now. So I think the American people have to get smarter. But this is a much deeper conversation, Terrell. This is about civics education. Most people couldn't even tell you what the role of the president is. And it's crazy. And so we've got to build this is an education issue. We've got to build our civic education, make it stronger in our nation. But more importantly, when you're voting and pulling that lever, do your research. Listen to what they're saying, not what party label they have.
A great conversation for sure. Thank you so much, Brandon Brice, conservative columnist and host of The Brice is Right. Thanks for joining us.
All right.